Yeah.
Yeah.
Zubay's sharing his screen.
How do I switch to
Okay.
my slides when it's my turn?
I will just stop sharing and you can share on your
Okay, cool.
side. Yeah, you have the you can try sharing now just so you see if that
Okay.
option works.
Um,
And then Zubay, in the chats, this is the YouTube link. I'll have YouTube open as well so that for any questions.
Can you see my stuff?
So with YouTube, we don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it. We will monitor YouTube. We'll try and transfer the questions to you guys as well. So that's no need to worry there. Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, I'll stop sharing so you can bring yours back.
Okay, cool. And then
Yeah. I want to close that windows just to get the noise down.
here I see a man left. I think he'll be back though.
Cool. So I'll be broadcasting on YouTube already.
Yes, we have started broadcasting on YouTube. Our students will just share the link with our students quickly, and then some of them you'll see them joining in here in a few minutes. I know a lot of them wait. They wait for the calendar to say you have a you have a workshop to attend.
Is my light okay in here? Because my lights are off, but there's enough light, I hope.
No, we can actually see you clearly, and we can hear you clearly as well.
Okay, good.
Amanda, I'm just gonna make you co-host again.
Okay, I just
Hi,
have to
Nicola.
update something.
No problem.
Hi, Mark. I'm gonna show my IDE that I'm making in Qlikster.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, people have started coming in. Hi, Nicola. I'm glad you made it on time.
Oh, thanks so much. Has the link been sent to our students yet?
Zubair, has the link been sent out yet?
Yes, I just sent it now onto Matrix and Slack.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. Yes.
I'll just check out mine. Can you see like what am I showing right now? Is it this?
There we go.
My journey to AI. There you go.
Okay. How do I like unshare? Okay.
Okay, cool. I think we.
I'm just waiting now for people to join. So
Yeah.
because everything is working, we can all hear each other.
Yes. We can all hear each other. Mm. Okay. I'm just gonna stay muted until 10 to, and then I'll make an announcement. Usually we start 5 minutes past just to get everyone in, then we'll kick it off. Cool.
Sounds good.
Great.
Nicola, do you have all of the links?
I'm busy doing that right now. I'm updating everything right now.
I made a new thing on IBM. So, is it now? There's gonna be 2 recorded stuff now on IBM. So I just made the one internal. You're gonna have to add them later on. in the user group stuff.
Okay, cool.
Zabir, please share screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, Mark, your book is still here.
I didn't realize you were in the office actually. I'm not sure if I need my glasses when close.
Nicola, I just wanted to confirm the students that are sitting in a room together.
What students in the room together?
Because I see Cape Town first floor here.
I'll go look.
Thank you.
Might have the projector up.
Okay, to clarify, Josh just made his name that. So if any students have trouble getting to the link in that, then we just come to the first floor and the projector set up in case we lose internet with so many people joining.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikona.
So, but just like a note for next time, when you're using Zoom, no, you can use the Content Club cameras and plug it into the computers and use it as a webcam. So like I used to do campus, and then you just put on a tripod and then show the whole campus, and then just connect that one laptop to the projector, and we can all see, and we can see all the demo.
Okay, must try that out when I get back to Cape Town.
I think all the cameras can do that. All the Content Club cameras can do it.
Must test it out. Um, what was that thing then? Okay, if there's anybody that is joined that is on Cape Town campus and having internet trouble, um, you can just go to the first floor and the projector will be up so you can watch from there as well.
Good morning, everyone. Just a few announcements. Whoever is here from Cape Town, if you have trouble joining, you can go upstairs, first floor, if I'm not mistaken. You can go join there. There's a laptop set up for you. And then we'll just start at 5 minutes past 11 so that we can get everyone in. While we're on that, please stay muted throughout the whole session, but feel free to use the chat so that we don't interrupt any of our speakers with unmuting in between. So, yeah, then we'll just wait until 5 past before we begin. For those of you who just joined, welcome. Our session will start at 5 minutes past 11. We're just waiting for everyone else to join. And if you're in Cape Town having troubles joining, you can head to the first floor. There has been a PC set up for you guys there to join from. So feel free to do that, and then please stay muted throughout the whole session, but feel free to use the chats for any of your questions. We do have a dedicated team who will be there to assist you with anything that you might require. Yeah, 5 minutes past 2, guys. Okay, I think it's safer for us to begin. Welcome everyone again to another session on a Tuesday. Today we're going to be doing everything artificial intelligence. I know some of you guys have been joining most of our session, but if you are new here, feel free, sit back, use the chats. We are here to help you every step we can. Feel free to communicate with the speakers throughout the whole session using the chat option. And then just to walk you through what is happening today. Today, this is our welcome and introduction. Then we have 2 special guests who will be speaking on artificial intelligence. And then from there, we're going to just, with everything that we learned from our speakers, we're going to introduce you to something called IBM Skills Build. I know some of you guys have knowledge of that, but we'll introduce you to more of something that is more focused on artificial intelligence this time around, and what is there on IBM Skills Build, what can you gain from there, and why is it important for you throughout your whole journey at Rethink Code. And then from there, we'll go to a small walkthrough with IBM Skills Build website, and then we'll have a Q&A session for you just to answer any of the questions that maybe we might have missed throughout the whole session, right? Next slide, please. In the chats, there's going to be a link that will be sent to you just to see who has joined us today. Just all you need to do is just click on the link. If you don't have a profile on IBM Skills Build yet, just sign up and then go to this part. This is what you're gonna see. This is where the link is gonna take you. And I'd just like you to mark this as complete. So just take it as though it's a way of us keeping register of who joined us this morning. So please just mark this as complete, and then yes, we can see who joined us today. Next slide, please. Cool. So as I've said, we always have these types of webinars. On Tuesday, mainly, it's the webinars that are internal, dedicated to only Rethink Code students. But on Thursday, we have ones that are external for both Rethink Code students, alumni, as well as people who might be interested in joining Rethink Code. So the upcoming ones that we have is, we have a cybersecurity protect your digital data on the 28th of November. Then we have Unlock Your Power of the Cloud, which will be aimed on cloud computing, which will be happening this week, Thursday, actually, on the 14th of November. Then we have another Artificial Intelligence Fundamentals and Career Paths happening on the 21st of November again. So what you can do if you want to sign up for these ones, what you need to do is go to any of our social media platforms at WithinCode. You'll find the registration link there, and then feel free to also share it to your friends or anyone who might be interested in any of these topics. It will be much appreciated. Next slide, please. So just to get into the nitty-gritty of today's actual reason why we're here, we have two remarkable speakers, right, from Trickster. The first speaker will be Mark, right? He is a serial entrepreneur and a tech innovator with over 20 years of experience, right? He co-founded Trickster, a platform that empowers entrepreneurs to build businesses faster and cheaper using AI agents, which I think is what we'll be speaking about today. And gig workers bypass the need for a CTO. He previously co-founded Gift. I hope I pronounced it. Yes, a digital gift card platform acquired by Face Data, a chess cube, and the second largest online chess site. Well, a lot of Within Code students are chess players, by the way, so I think they might find this one interesting. As an experienced investor, he also a partner at 2R Investments, backing early-stage startups. Mark's passion lies in reimagining how technology can drive business growth and innovation. But he's not alone today, right? He has one of Within Code's alumni. His picture goes. He is Aman Peterson. He graduated from Within Code. He's actually a graduate, a junior software engineer at Trickster. He's proficient full stack and mobile dev with expertise in web development, UI, UX, and e-commerce integration, which is what we spoke about last week. Okay. And then also, he is skilled in Python, Java, and JavaScript and agile methodologies. He's hand-on experience in test automation, which is like your QA, DevOps, and both SQL and NoSQL databases. Currently a junior software developer at Trickster, specializing in the, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Ninak. Is it? Platform and Cypress for QA. Okay. Previously, he led a successful migration and optimization. And then he is adept to deliver scalability, high performance solution, and collaborating with cross-functional teams to drive business success. Welcome to both of you guys with your long bios. Thank you so much for joining us. We welcome you with our students, and I hope you enjoy your stay while you give us your presentation. You can have your stage. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Let me just share. Okay, is that all going through?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to talk to you about some of the things we're doing. Just a very brief history of me beyond the kind introduction. When I was young, I wanted to be a film director, but I ended up going to UCT and doing a BCom in accounting and auditing and tax, which was very dry for me compared to my creative side. And my mum always thought I should go into software and do some form of computer science, but I was a bit scared of computers initially. But after my BCom, I decided not to become an accountant, and I did a diploma in programming, probably very similar to what most of you guys are doing. And I actually studied C programming at the time. And when I started that, in the course, they said I couldn't do C because I hadn't programmed before. And there was a basic course. They said if I get 95% for basic, then they'll allow me to do C. So I worked really hard. I got 95%. I did C. And our first project was building a basic interpreter where we actually had to run a basic code base through the interpreter that I built. So that actually really set me up to thinking that we don't have to follow the normal paths. We can reinvent how we do things. And after that, I always wanted to find ways to reinvent how we build software. And my path led me to become a tech entrepreneur. So I never really had a job in the normal sense where I applied for a job. I just started companies, and in some cases, we were acquired, and I worked for the acquiring company. But through my experience, I actually had the mixture of business and technology. And that was actually very useful for me in the entrepreneurial world. And one thing I can say about being an entrepreneur, and I'm going to encourage all of you to think about becoming an entrepreneur as part of of this talk and journey, is that you always feel like the underdog. You're always like fighting for survival with your idea that nobody understands yet or won't necessarily in the early stage. And you have to be quite tough, I think, to actually persevere. But the world is changing right now, and all of you are obviously watching what's happening with AI. I'm sure many of you are using GPT and the like, and you're thinking about how can I use this to help me? And our story at Trickster is really a story of like a David and Goliath epic battle of the small kind of underdog, competing against the large corporations. And it seems very hard. It seems very hard that you can actually take on a corporation as a small little group of 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people. But I think that's what AI can actually bring us now. I think AI can superpower us to take on big opportunities in the world. And I think all of you are probably very, excited, but also very nervous about the future, because how is AI going to change the way you get a job or what you do in the future? But at the same time, there's opportunities. And so I think that's what we want to talk about today. Just checking my slides. So the book on the left is called Built to Last. It's a book that I really enjoyed reading. It came out of maybe 20 years ago. I can't remember exactly. But they speak about companies that have survived in the world. And of the large corporates, like in the US in particular, but other countries too, some companies have an ability to survive the changes that are happening in the world. And IBM is actually an example of that. IBM started out as a business, building business hardware. And in the early days, they probably had 3 or 4 machines around the world. They took the size of entire buildings. But as the years passed and software changed and things happened, IBM kept on reinventing itself. And that's why IBM is still around today, whereas a lot of companies died in the past, because it's very hard to actually stay alive as a large corporate. And I'm going to go into a little bit why. On the right, we have a book called Built to Suck, which actually was written by somebody from Cape Town who lives in America. And he's been looking at American companies and like really, looking why do they suck so badly? And a lot of them actually survive just because they have so much money. They can find ways to survive. But in the new AI world, the question really is are these companies going to survive in the long run? And I have my doubts that many of them will survive. I think we're going to see big changes in the way large corporates operate. They need to adapt and change in the same way we, as like maybe entrepreneurs or people just entering the workforce, have to adapt. And I'm going to just go into a little bit about large companies. So if we think of really huge companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and others, Nvidia, the reason some of them do well is because they had maybe some core elements. So Google's never been maybe great at building original software, but they're very good at acquiring companies and then reintegrating them into their greater systems. They typically have bought almost every single piece of important software they have at Google. They bought Android, they bought the advertising platforms, they bought their Google Sheets, they bought like pretty much everything. But what they were good at was search. So that's their fundamental. And and the question is, what's going to happen to search now as we go? I mean, Microsoft has always built systems and had business customers, so they're used to the building and the changing, and they're kind of at the forefront in some ways with AI, having acquired a large stake in OpenAI. Apple's very hardware oriented, but they have to write some software. They're not really a software company in the traditional sense. Nvidia is really a company that's able to adapt to change and drive things really quickly. And so just a cautionary tale of some companies in the past. So I'm not sure if many of you have heard of Kodak at your age, maybe. When I was young, people used to take photographs without digital cameras, and they used to send them off to the lab to process them. And Kodak was the main company in the world that did the processing of photographs. And they used silver in their process, silver nitrate, I think. And they were the world's largest consumer of silver, and they were huge. They were everywhere in the world. They dominated photographs. And they had a lab that did innovation, and they invented this idea of a digital camera. And it was amazing. They invented the first digital camera, and they went to their bosses and they said, "Look, we've invented this new digital camera." And the bosses were like, "Well, that's crazy. How can we introduce the digital camera and kill our entire business? Let's just keep this under wraps. Maybe nobody else will think of this idea." And then within a couple of years, other people started bringing out digital cameras, and people moved away from Kodak. And Kodak then suddenly brought out their digital camera range, but they were too late. They were actually suddenly far behind. But they were the first. And so the cautionary tale is you have to innovate, and you have to work through that dilemma of, can I kill my original business with something new? And it's very hard for companies to do. Xerox PARC's also an interesting group. They were like a group within Xerox who invented the mouse, and they invented the graphical user interface. But then, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs popped in to have a look, and then they saw what they were doing and then just copied them. And Xerox never actually did do that. So cautionary tales are that it's the innovator's dilemma of large corporates, and it's very hard for them to actually change. They're just not geared. Most of them are not geared for actual change. So if we think of large corporations, I'm sure most of you have looked at the hierarchical organization where at the top you have your queen or king with generals and courtiers, and then ultimately the peasants at the bottom that do the bidding of the large organization. Sorry, I know I'm using a very colorful way of explaining it, but that's typically how hierarchical organizations work. Some people think of hierarchical organizations more like this, where like there's just top-down pressure from the people at the top telling the people below them what to do. And often people below are too nervous to actually send information back up the flagpole to give any kind of bad news. And they aren't always sure what is good news and bad news. So it creates a communication gap in certain companies, certainly the older traditional companies, who need to rethink how this works. Businesses are really about people and processes and teams. And that's really a key element of what our story is about, is you have people. And when I say people, I mean humans. But I think there's also AI agents coming in as non-human digital workforce too. But there's people, there's processes, and there's teams, and you have to find ways for those to cooperate, where the information that flows backwards and forwards in your company is easy for people to absorb and to understand. And so there's a concept called holacracy, where Brian Robertson wrote a book on this and actually formed a foundation to come up with a new way where instead of having a hierarchical company, you could empower smaller teams to operate almost independently and autonomously. And by doing that, you take away this kind of directive from the top down, and you make it easier for them to operate. And so Tony Hsieh, the late Tony Hsieh, he started a shoe company. But by the way, is my sound okay for everyone? Just double checking.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
I was just worried about doing my whole talk in silence for everyone. So Tony Hsieh had a company called Zappos, which is a shoe company where you would go online, you would choose some shoes, they would be sent to your house or wherever. You would try on the ones you wanted, you'd send back the ones you didn't want, and you'd pay for your shoes. And he loved the idea of changing the way the corporate hierarchy worked. And so he had a hierarchical organization, and he decided to adopt holacracy. And he actually sold his company, I think, for about $2.5 billion to Amazon in the end. And just before he sold, he converted to holacracy, and he created this new team approach. And when he did that, people weren't used to this, where people in the trenches weren't used to the fact that they had so much power to do what they wanted, in a sense. And some of them found that uncomfortable, but a lot of people liked it. He actually made them an offer: if you really feel uncomfortable, we'll give you a full pay and you can leave. And about 10% of the workforce actually left. So just to contrast hierarchy and holacracy, or hierarchical organizations and holacratic organizations, here we have a more hierarchical structure, as you know, with the CEO at the top and maybe the managers and then the people who execute the work lower down. But here on this side, we have holacracy, where you have different circles, and each circle can represent a part of your organization, where you can choose people to be in those teams, and they don't answer to the CEO. The CEO can't even tell them what to do. They have a directive, and they work internally, and they choose how they want to operate. Obviously, if they mess up badly, they're going to lose their funding, and they'll be liquidated. Not, not in a bad way. But generally, in holacratic organizations, these are called circles. These circles that aren't doing well may be liquidated, and the people in them go onto the bench, and then they can be reabsorbed into other circles in the organization. It's a very different way of thinking, but what it does do, it gives more autonomy and power to the people in that group, and they don't have to answer in a very complex communication with the rest of the company. So in Trickster, we have been building systems where we allow organizations to represent themselves and then to build systems and software around their organization. And this is actually on the right, this interesting view, which we used to call the amoeba view, I think, amoeba. In this view, we actually show that you can have many different elements of an organization, some within other parts of the organization, where you can have like these different groupings and maybe have different roles inside of these groups. And we actually had this in our IDE, in our interface. It was very much about spaces within spaces or circles within circles. And at Trickster, we've been building this system for about 7 years. And we always had this idea of circles within circles as the way that you build systems, different to hierarchy. And if you cast your vision to the center of this bunch of circles, that's actually where our logo for Trickster emerged from. And it represents emergence, because if you have many different groups or circles that are cooperating together, your business emerges, things emerge out of that. And that became our logo at Trickster. And obviously, in the AI world, we're starting to see, I'm sure many of you use these various AI tools and GPT and large language models, but you've probably been noticing, if you're following it, that there's a lot of narrative around the idea of AI agent teams or AI agents. And so today we're going to go into a little bit, what is an AI agent in contrast to a human agent, for example? And what is a team of AI agents? And why do you need teams of AI agents? Can't you just have one? So we're going to go into what an agent is. And to just get our minds used to the idea of an agent, I'm going to talk about a kind of agent that most of us have heard about, which is a real estate agent. So in this picture, we have Sharon, who's a real estate agent. She comes to the prospective customer and wants to sell their house and take a commission. So maybe she wants 6-7% of the sale, and the seller's like, no, I'm not giving you that much money. That's just too much. And then Sharon says, okay, let's negotiate. I'll tell you what, let's make it 3.5%, but I want the sole mandate to be the only person selling it. Then I'll give you a better deal. Then the person says, yes, let's go ahead. They sign a contract. So now there's a relationship between the agent and the seller in this case. But the role of the agent is complex. It's not just like they sell your house. How do they do that? They need to evaluate your property. These are workflows or process flows, really. It's actually a business. There's marketing strategy. They have to do some kind of marketing to try and find you people. They have to have open houses where people can come check out the property, and then they want to dress up your property to make it look nice. The lights need to be on, maybe some nice furniture. Maybe they clean it up a little bit. They can list your property on various sites like Property 24. Then they show the property to people. They start negotiating offers from people. They manage the documentation and the contractual elements of the sale. And then ultimately, they close the sale. Then the money comes in, they get paid, the customer gets their money eventually with some red tape, and that's taken care of by the agent. And ultimately, the buyer buys the property and moves in. So now, from a tech point of view, we can think, well, these are workflows. Workflows are key to building systems. And here's just an example. We don't have to go into this, but these are examples of what happens. This flow is like an example flow of what actually happens. And so in many ways, we can think of this process of an agent working on something as a series of steps within a flow to achieve a certain goal. And human agents work in the same way as AI agents do. AI agents also have to do certain steps in a process flow to achieve a certain goal. So if you think about agents, we can think of three kinds of, there are probably more in some ways, but let's think of three broad types of agents you can have in systems. You can have humans, which we're used to. That's how it's always been over the last many thousands of years. You have systems which are pre-programmed software, which we've started building. So those act as an agent and do certain things based on their programming. They don't think for themselves, really. They just use their logic and coding to actually decide how to operate within a certain environment. And then we have this new thing over here, the AI agents. So AI agents are they're agents, they're system agents as well in a sense, but they're driven by maybe large language models which help them to actually decide how to operate. And they act on their own volition. So a system doesn't really act on its own volition. It just uses pre-programmed. But the AI agents can think and come up with ideas. And maybe they can like maybe chat to the other types of agents to see what to do, and then they'll go off and do something. It's a new animal, and that's actually the interesting part of where the world's moving to. So there's a philosophical question of, do humans actually live in the real world, or are we just brains floating in a vat? This is philosophy, so I know it's not really the main topic of the day, but this has been a question that philosophers have debated. Are we really real? Do we really live in the real world? Well, in a way, a large language model is like an electronic brain in the vat. It kind of floats there. You can ask it a question, it can give you an answer, but is it really doing anything? No, it's not. It's just you're asking it for something, it gives you back something. It maybe gives you a picture or a poem or a file or some code. You then have to take that and do something with it. The LLM itself is not it is an agent, but it's not a real powerful agent that can actually execute in the world. It needs more than what it is to do that. And so this diagram really just shows that it needs to be embodied in some form. And not everything's going to be a robot, although I think there are robots coming from what I can see. There's a lot of people working on them. But in this example, you have the brain in the vat that's connected to these limbs. And so this creature can take action using the large language model that it's attached to. So, two ways that agents can use large language models is they can use an LLM to hear. So you can give instructions to an agent, and then it uses maybe some form of Claude or GPT or some type of large language model to understand what you're saying to it, and then to reinterpret that in internal language that it can work with. And it can also reply back to you and talk. And when it wants to, it has information, and then it uses an LLM to speak back to you. So those are two ways that large language models can actually work. It can also think internally or plan things using large language models. So this is an AI agent that has tools. So if you think about it, if it's just a brain floating in a vat, it can't do anything. But if you have tools, you can change the world. And so a tool could be you integrating with an API, and then it decides to call an API to make a payment or to buy something or do something or send an SMS. So tools are any kind of thing where you can interact with the world. And AI agents need to be able to use tools. They need large language models to help them talk and hear and think a little bit. They need tools to execute. And they need to be able to plan. Those are the main, it sounds very simple, but those are the main elements you need for an AI agent model to actually operate. So just broadly, when we think of a business, we think of a space, and in Trickster, we think of circles or spaces. And so let's say your broader business is in your primary business space. And within, outside of your space, you have these kinds of agents. You have humans. You can think of them as in the space, but they're actually operating outside. They live outside the space, but they have rules and regulations of how they operate. In the same way systems do as well. They're a system that operates within your business space. And your business space is this broad thing of what is my business, what do we do? And it's kind of ethereal almost. And then now we have AI agents that can also participate. And how we create some kind of constraint on these agents to operate within certain rules is to give them a role. So these agents can take on one or more roles inside of a space. So, a role could be like an accountant, or a role could be a marketing person or sales or some form of operations where you can do things, but you can't do everything. The role determines what you're allowed to do. And what you're allowed to do is really a series of interactions. So these agents can take some form of interaction inside of the business space. And so an action is where the role initiates a process or a work. In this case, we showed as a workflow. So these are the processes. So an agent, any of these agents can initiate any process that they're allowed to do. And a reaction is when there's in this kind of a business space where things are happening. There could be processes happening that ultimately information gets sent to an agent. And so it's important for for there to be some form of processes. And so it's either initiated by the agent or it's reacted to by the agent. And any process flow is normally made up of steps. So these are the steps that the agents have to take. And sometimes they can have logical flows, or these steps, they could reach out to other systems. So there could be code attached to a step. So there's either logical flow or there's some form of code and way to reach out, or the code could allow them to transform data and that type of thing. Through these simple mechanisms, you can get an AI agent doing quite a lot. I mean, more than quite a lot. You can actually do anything inside of an organization. So these are the 6 fundamental Lego blocks that we see from a Trickster point of view, is that you have agents. They participate within spaces. They take on roles to constrain what they can do or react to. They have interactions. Those interactions are defined as processes or flows, and the flows are made out of steps. And with those 6 core elements, we think that you can describe anything inside of a business environment, and that's how we see things at Trickster. So coming back to holacratic organizations, this model really was very deep for us, and from the very early days, we wanted to use this to create environments within organizations where we could have humans and we can have AI agents and systems cooperating together, where different circles or spaces allow you to create a concrete view of the entire organization and have these pieces work together. So, and here's like a more artistic example of what we're looking to do inside of Trickster. So one of the areas that we're very focused on right now is AI agent teams. And so in this example, you have like a development team. So maybe there's a developer, there's an engineer, okay, there might be the same thing. There's an architect, there's an analyst, there's a tester. So you have these different skills, and we think of these as roles or sub-roles within this space. But this space interacts with all the other spaces in your organization. And the reason why you need to have different skills or different roles for AI agents is because when you're using large language models to actually define what an agent does, an LLM-driven agent, those LLMs train on or become aware of their skill, and that's all they're good at. They're not good at breaking skill or having one agent that does everything. So by having different AI agents doing different things, but they can cooperate together, this works in a holacratic way, even though they're non-human. And so they're able to cooperate and work out things together. And this idea is not new. So this was something, I think it came out about 1.5 years ago, where ChatDev, they created this quite cute interface where you could have people designing software systems. Well, the initial maybe prompt is develop a Gamoku game. Then it goes to design, and then these agents talk amongst each other. And then eventually they send it off to the coding group. And then the coding group, they work backwards and forwards to code the site. Then it goes to another AI agent group, which is the testing group. And then they work together to kind of see if anything's wrong. Well, from a coding point of view, if there's questions or issues, they can send it back to the design group. And these are all AI agents, by the way. The test group can also send things back to the coding group saying there's an error here. And ultimately, they had a documenting group that would document their stuff. And then they would create software. So that was kind of fun. I mean, it wasn't that deep. They didn't go that far, but they did something. And it did kind of work. Crew AI is a newer group. So they create crews that also have a series of agents in different roles or skills within a group to achieve certain things. They just raised, I think it was $22 million about 2 weeks ago, actually, because a lot of people are using their system. So we like Crew. We were looking at Crew at Trickster to see what can we learn from them. But this was the problem for us. And I hate to say this because I know all of you are studying coding, but we wanted a system where you didn't have to code these things. We wanted them to almost evolve. And so we felt this was complex, and we felt it was complex for a lot of companies to use because they maybe don't have the skills internally to do this. Another group is AutoGen, one of many that are doing things like this, team-based agents. AutoGen was actually a project under Microsoft, and through them, they would also allow you to build these like complex agent teams. And it is more geared towards corporate and the capability of large companies to operate this way. Well, just checking, sound still good?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, good. And so through this is much more rigorous because they want to focus on larger organizations and corporates as well, where you really need to have a lot of rigor in what you build. But with rigor comes even more complexity. So they have many, many more different elements than Crew AI. And again, from our perspective, we wanted to be able to encapsulate this in more intuitive ways, without having to code as much. So this is actually an earlier version of our agent team wizard. I'm just going to show you some screenshots from that. This was about 2 months ago, I think, and we've come a long way since then, but I think it still explains itself well. So here, we wanted to create an agent team with multiple roles in a team. And so all we do here is we say what the name of the team is, the trip planner team. And then you can write as much as you want here to explain what it does, but we just wrote it very simple. It plans comprehensive trip itineraries. So if you want to travel somewhere, this is the team for you. And then you basically hit the create agent team. And then our system, it takes about, well, it says 1 minute 45, but I think it took less. I think this took about a minute. It creates a server for you in the cloud where your team will live. And in doing that, I started thinking about what are all the different skills and roles you would need inside of that team. And so in this case, it comes back to you with a text, editable text area where it shows you, well, there's a destination researcher, there's a logistics coordinator, there's an accommodation specialist, there's a budget analyst. These are all the different skills your team will need to be able to put together a nice trip itinerary for you. And then you can edit this if you want to, and then you ultimately get to this view where we actually break down these different roles in your team. And you can delete 1 or 2, you can add new ones, you can rewrite what they do. But ultimately, without coding, you're actually setting up this AI agent team that's very powerful. And then we bring this into our IDE. So this is actually the Trickster IDE. It's a variation of it. I think Aman may be going to show you a little bit more about this. But in here we have system roles. So these roles of these agents within this team are the accommodation specialist, the budget analyst, destination researcher. And you can see for the destination researcher, we kind of show you. I mean, you can click on any of these to get the same kind of stuff. You can see what they do. You can see how they're going to operate. And then ultimately, we also built a very simple UI or UX to allow you to say, where will you be traveling from? Cape Town. Which cities are you going to? Tokyo and Osaka. What date? And then what are your interests? Like you like food. So this person likes food and cultural heritage. And then based on that, you can submit that to this team. So what you're really doing is you're prompting your AI agent team to take on this information and do something, and which in this case is to create an itinerary. And then the AI agent team then constructs this itinerary over here. And this is everything you need for a few days in Japan. If you want to go to Japan, you should use this, but you can use it for any city in the world. So I just want to go back to this point here. So from this moment of actually just starting to build your team, to setting up your server in the cloud, to editing your team in these 2 screens, to getting this into the IDE, so you can check it out, maybe make some changes to it, to setting up this interface, maybe not the prettiest interface in the world, but just to do it, and then hitting enter and then getting this result. The entire end-to-end process for us took about 4 minutes, if not slightly less. And that's because Trickster, we had built this entire platform around this idea of actually building agent teams. I mean, other types of teams too, but this specific capability came from what's been built inside of the Trickster platform, where we can create any kind of team. And this is a very simple AI agent team because they don't really reach out and do the booking, take your money, or any of that stuff. This was an early version of the agent team working. So that brings us back to full circle, which is using modern technology. We believe that small entrepreneurs, small companies who don't maybe have a lot of money and don't necessarily have a lot of skills can use what's coming in the AI world to take on the corporate giants. And we would like to see that Trickster is one of those platforms that allows people to do this. And a lot of our focus is on helping small and medium-sized businesses. And we're very focused on South Africa and Africa at the moment as a core area for us to open up, because we believe that, South Africa and Africa generally are very quick to leapfrog using modern technology, using their phone, using some kind of technology. Whereas certain countries, maybe like the US, are I mean, I know people think they're very fast, but they're actually a bit slower for corporates at least, and even for large companies to start adopting new technologies. So there's a big opportunity for us to leapfrog. Thanks very much. I'm gonna stop that share.
Thank you so much, Mark. Would you like us to take questions now, or should we let Aman continue?
I think let Aman continue and we'll take questions at the end.
Okay, Aman, you have the stage.
So can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can see your screen, Aman.
Okay, Canva isn't make sure, so it's not working. So I'm just gonna present like this, if it's okay.
It's okay, yeah. Canva's giving us problems as well.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Aman and I'm a second year student. I'm a graduate at WeThinkCode 2022 cohort, and I'm currently a junior developer at sorry, my camera is off. And
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yes, we can see you now.
And I'm currently a junior developer here at Trickster, working in the fast-paced and exciting world of AI. I'm just here to share a little bit about my journey from WeThinkCode to Trickster, like the job hunt and everything. I call it the drought, the 6 month drought when I was busy job hunting and looking for jobs and stuff like that, and self-improving and working, upscaling my skills that I learned from WeThinkCode. And just some lessons that I've learned from working and job hunting and from graduating and stuff like that. Yeah. So my journey at WeThinkCode, I was actually I took the elective of mobile dev. I was also a content club member and I was the photographer. Also, shout out to the content club of WeThinkCode right now. I think you guys are doing like an amazing job. I think WeThinkCode was quite challenging. The first year was quite trouble because everything felt manageable. We had like assignments, we had good projects, and it gave me like a lot of space to volunteer and do part-time work or projects on the side. So I actually used to do volunteer at the Google Developer Group as a photographer and at the events that they had, the GDG events that they usually have. And I can't say the same for second year. Second year was quite crazy because uh, we got robbed. We got robbed twice. Um, so it set us back a lot. We had a lot of deadlines and group projects and things that we have to focus on. And yeah, it kind of set me behind on what to do on CVs and things like that. And so we were also, some of us were tackling job interviews like myself, and it was like live coding and things like that. And we still had to challenge um you know deadlines. Toy robot, we were learning new electives, like I said, mobile development, Flutter, I was learning that. And by December somehow I told myself, you know what, when the last git push git commit I mean git add git commit git push that I had from WeThinkCode, it was I told myself, when I finish all of the projects and things, I told myself, this December, the 13th of December, when it was my last day, I'm not actually on holiday. I'm actually unemployed. And while all the other students were busy getting, I had some placements I didn't have, and like most students also didn't have, and that means that we were in the job hunt, and it just got crazy. It was very unpredictable to figure out if you're gonna get a job, if you're not. It was a lot about patience, and so I decided that I'm gonna use my skills from WeThinkCode to I'm gonna use it for good, and then I was to freelance. And so I just with my last type when I went on Udemy, and I just did like a course on UI and UX design and improved on my Flutter and my web development. And then I somehow convinced family members in my family members who own businesses and random people that they need a website, and I ended up doing websites for them, and I even started helping UI and UX designers, like other freelancers, helping them with their works, and that kind of took me through the job hunting and like at least get like money on the side and things like that. Simultaneously, I was also job hunting, and that was so hard because there's like different gaps between the years. So usually businesses have these financial years, and they have different times of when they intake people. So it's usually like December for January, or it's like mid-year, June, July, May, June, July, and yeah, and also depending on the financial years. So usually they take like 3 or 4 months to do recruitment and things like that. So it's a lot of live coding, and there was a lot of companies kind of open for work, and you had to like uh change your CV every time to the different roles that you are applying for, and which was quite stressful. And yeah, a lot of many rejections and technical interviews that led to nowhere. So after about 6 months of freelancing and interviews, I actually received my first job offer, which was from a company. I'd rather not say which one, but I was just too excited that to take the role, and I went through 2 or 3 interviews, and I was just too excited to take the role that I didn't actually research the role and research the company. And so I just took my time, and I interviewed former students who worked there as interns and former, developers, and I just something didn't feel right about what they were saying and their feedback from it. And then I actually turned it down after 6 months of being unemployed. And obviously I felt like I made a big mistake, but honestly, a couple of months, actually 2 months ago from now, the company actually closed down because I just didn't feel right what the company was doing and how they were treating their workers and their whole structure and things. So and then came Trickster. Trickster AI I had everything I was looking for when I was searching. Surprisingly, I got like an email from Meeting Code saying that this company is interested in interviewing you and would like to know more about you. Trickster AI, the company felt, well, when I was doing my research, it felt like a startup, and it's using technology, and it uses technology to solve like real world problems. Um, Actually working in AI, it feels like working like in the future, and where every day involves like creating tools that could change how people's lives and works. Um, so our team is quite so working at Trickster, it's quite cool. Um, what I started off was at my internship, it was testing, but it isn't like your usual testing with PyTest and things like that. It's more of automation testing where we use Cypress. It's like, just imagine training a robot or a bot to go into different websites and testing buttons and looking for and testing actions and looking for reactions and just looking for feedback overall. Surprisingly, it's fun. It's actually very nice that way of testing, and like gives like a whole new perspective of like software quality. And then as a permanent member at with at Trickster, I started. They put me in the deep end, and I started up in working with APIs and working in the back end side. So let me just show you. So this is basically ways we work. This is our backend that we work to do what I was doing. So I was making like API, like using APIs like Dolly APIs to generate a specific image, and then it was storing into like a Google bucket. So basically it's like using 2 APIs and using Trickster, which we have our own language model called meta coding, where we connect blocks from like different APIs and codes, and we use Trickster to connect it all together to give you a specific result. And so that was like my first week or two of working as permanent. And now it's quite crazy right now because I'm now designing an IDE like this. Like I'm replicating an IDE for like VS Code into Trickster. So I'm literally building my own one using our own language model. The cool thing about it is like this code right here is the code that we use for the backend of the searching module. And it's quite crazy to tell you, to explain really, but we design like our own language model, and we have that only works in our software. And to improve our software, we use our own language in our software to improve our software in a way. So yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm like designing a whole new IDE inside here so that when users start to use Trickster, they have it's more of like a user experience is going to be better than this confusing one. And yeah, my journey is quite exciting. And the languages that I use isn't the same languages that we use back in written code. I think one question I asked myself is like, why did I even learn Python and Java? Especially like in written code. But I think it's quite important because when companies start taking you in, they're gonna throw you into the deep side. They're gonna throw you with languages that you never even heard of. But in Python and Java, it helps you learn those languages quickly. So in Europe, there's actually like they have this language system they call the 5 Romantic languages, which consist of French, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Bosnian. So if you learn one language, they say if you learn one of the language, you can learn every other of the 5 Romantic languages. And I think it's the same for the concepts that you learn in Python and Java, and the things that you learn in written code. Like even it's the versioning, the GitLab, and everything else, and quality assurance and software quality. So it becomes very important because technology is consistently evolving, and we have to learn new language modules, and written code kind of like provides you with that. And yeah, being part of working in AI feels like you've been part of something revolutionary, and it's quite cool that knowing that in Trickster, one of our biggest rivals are all the way in Silicon Valley, and here we are in the tip of Africa, and we're competing with them. So it's good to be part of this journey, and I really hope you guys are excited for the future. And I was actually on your seat, and hopefully this inspires you to do more and like to learn. And yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Aman. Thank you so much, Mark, for your incredible presentations. I think this time we're just gonna take the next few minutes to ask any questions that we might have from any of our speakers. But from my end, just to start us off, what advice would you give someone from a within code perspective, a beginner has never dabbled with AI before, and I want to get into this industry, but there's so much information out there. How do I get started?
Cool. So I think what's important is just to begin. I mean, I'm sure everyone's playing with GPT, so that's a good thing. And ultimately, I think it's important to obviously you have courses and you may not have courses that integrate into some of the large language models, but I think you should try and get an API into one of the language models and actually just build something, ask some questions, just dream of ideas, just for fun on the side. I think just doing that is really important. I think all companies are going to have to take notice of this kind of thing. So I think doing that while you're still studying is good. And I agree with Aman that we actually do use Python as one of our languages inside of Trickster. We support 3 languages. So that's a direct correlation for us. I think that's very useful. Java is more a corporate language, and historically I've always used Java in most of my companies. But I think now just having learned Java really gives you a deep sense of virtual machines and syntax. But I think it's time to start thinking about AI more and play with it.
And then for you, Arman, I know I also went through the same course at Within Code, right? But in terms of transitioning from Within Code into the workspace, right? There's some sort of mental what can I call it? You need to be thinking different, right? In terms of the change that you'll be required to now take and the challenge that you'll be required to now take in this new industry. So how did you adapt? How were you coping with this new change?
I think I'll talk about Cypress when I was learning this new testing module. I think I didn't go and like learn like a 12-hour to go through a 12-hour tutorial, and I actually just went straight for it and went into the deep end, and with the help of AI and like ChatGPT to help me build like testing and stuff like that. So yeah, I think just go deep into the deep end and just look what they are asking for and try to implement it, and on the way you learn it. So like Cypress right now is like second-hand language now for me. I can just code it now, and yeah, yeah. So just go for the deep end, and you don't really need to learn like the 12-hour things. You can do it on the side, but like AI can help you do it and learn faster in a way.
And then there's a question here from Cape Town. They're asking, as a beginner, it's easy to create something like a basic machine learning model. How can I start training bigger models without the compute power? And how long will it take?
Okay,
So little resources.
yeah, I mean, I believe, and again, I'm not certain, but I believe there are free compute systems out there. There's like blockchain-based systems out there. I can't think of the name of the one that I'm thinking of right now. But it's not easy. I mean, you need to obviously have compute and you need to have the capabilities to do it. I mean, it's not easy for everyone, by the way. So whoever thinks it's easy, that's a good thing. Then you're onto something big. Internally, we have our own compute resources. In our other partner company, we have GPUs, and we're actually thinking of buying like local GPUs to do it. But it's not easy to get. But hopefully, we think Code can provide some machines maybe at some point.
Oh gosh, if only it was possible. If only.
Also,
And then,
my
yes.
my experience with machine learning, I think you should start from the beginning. Like one project that I did was sentiment analysis, where it's more of like training your modules and things like that, reading data of like websites and things, and then getting sentiment off of it. You can also use Kaggle, I think, as a good data source that they use from Google. That's also a good way to start sentiment analysis program. Yeah, it's good for machine learning beginners.
Thank you so much. And then there's a question that says, what are some real-world application of AI agents that a beginner like me might encounter?
So you have choices to build stuff yourself. I mean, we showed you Crew AI. It might be worthwhile just playing with Crew because it's an open source system, so you can use it for free. And they have examples in Crew which show you different use cases that you can build, and then you can just build it yourself. So we don't use Crew internally. We use them as a reference early on, but they do have some very nice ways to build things. So I would definitely look at them as a starting point.
Thank you so much. I think because of time, we've chatted 1 hour. We're just gonna move on to just the remaining set that we have prepared for them. So also, let me just go back on track. I think we'll just go back to advertising the upcoming events that we have for you guys. Please go to the top of our chat. There is a link that has been sent to you to please mark that as complete so that we know who has joined us today. And if you have any additional questions for either of our speakers, feel free to email us. We have them on our email as well, we can always forward the questions to them, and they will be more than happy to help. And then also connect with them on your LinkedIn. I think that's a good way to network with them as well. But please mark that as complete so that we can communicate with you going forward. For our upcoming events, just another reminder, we have cybersecurity, we have cloud computing, as well as AI. The cloud computing is happening this Thursday, so please do feel free to join, share it to everyone else who might be interested in any of those topics. I think we have another questions that I might just throw before we end our session. It says, what's the future of reinforcement learning in practical applications, and what are any use cases you especially excited about?
Ooh, that's a hard question to answer. So yeah, and it depends what you're trying to achieve. I mean, a lot of our focus is actually using like large language models, which in themselves are a form of reinforcement learning, but you can use reinforcement learning for other types of activities. Historically, I've been interested in security and using like visual systems where we used machine learning and reinforcement learning to figure out what the different artifacts are. I think that's a big part of the future, where you can get far better security with multiple cameras and systems that you built around machine learning around that. So I think that's exciting as well. We also have another investment where we invested in a lie detector system, so we can tell if people are lying or understand their sentiment. So those are the security and lie detection is an interesting area. But there's just so much. There's just everything's going in this direction.
And then just one more last question. This one is from Eliza. He's asking, what are the prerequisites to work as a machine learning engineer? Will companies even hire you as a Within Code graduate? Don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer that, just because not every company is doing machine learning, and there are a few. So it's not that it's limited, and I think it's a great area because, you know, of all the technical areas, that's going to survive very long. But I, to be honest, I'm not sure it's how to answer that question.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mark. And then to any of our students, just so we wrap up, thank you so much for joining our session. Thank you, Mark and Aman, for joining our session and putting Trickster out there to our students as well. At least now they know what happens there as people who might be interested in going into the company as well. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. We will be reaching out if there's any more questions that our students might have. And to our students, feel free to email us. There at the bottom, you can see that's our email address that you can reach us on. Just email us, and then you can even Slack or text us on Matrix. We are available to all of you guys. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining.
for
I
having us.
think we will end our session here. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.